There are books you read for entertainment, and then there are books you read because they pull you into someone's soul, sometimes gently, sometimes like a suitcase being yanked off an airport carousel when you weren't ready for it. Today's book is one of those rare collections where each page feels like you've been handed a photograph, a diary entry, and someone's unfiltered heart all at once. It's a mix of grief and celebration, politics and poetry, and yes, just the right dash of the personal to make you feel like you've stumbled into someone's living room mid-story. Picture this. You're born into a politically active family. Not just any politically active family, one where your father isn't just making speeches at dinner parties, but is at the very center of your country's political storm. That's Abena Busia's reality. Her father, K.A. Busia, wasn't exactly playing the role of quiet citizen in the back of the room. He was the opposition leader under Ghana's first president, Kwame Nkrumah. Now, in case you've missed your Ghanaian political history refresher, politics here has never been boring. This is a land where coups were not rare once-in-a-century events. They were practically part of the political weather forecast. You didn't just have dry season and rainy season, you had coup season too.
Say what?
So what happens when your family gets caught in that cyclone? Well, if you're Abena Busia, you don't just live through it, you record it in poetry. But not the vague, what does this even mean poetry that requires a panel of English professors to decode. No, her poetry is clear, direct, steeped in local metaphors, and emotionally precise. Loss, that's the central note. Loss of loved ones, of country, of privacy, of innocence, loss of self. Sometimes, it's even the loss of the very idea that life can be predictable. But it's not just grief. Peppered among the elegies are poems marking celebrations, marriages, birthdays, anniversaries. Except, well, here's the catch. These celebrations aren't full of unclouded joy. There's always this ever-present undertone of exile. Imagine celebrating your wedding anniversary while you're thousands of miles away from home, your country in political turmoil. Yes, there's cake, but the frosting tastes faintly of loss. Through the poems, we also see the gritty underbelly of Ghana's political history: coups, arrests, executions, exile. Not the stuff you get in a neatly edited political documentary. This is the view from inside the family living room. We see the zombie-ick posture of military juntas, the creeping erosion of freedoms, and the subtle and not-so-subtle ways power is misused. And here's something Busia captures beautifully. Politicians, no matter how the media paints them, are human beings. They have families. They feel fear, joy, anger, grief. The consequences of political crackdowns don't just land on the politician. They ripple out to spouses, children, even friends of friends. In this sense, her poems are almost like emotional witness statements, testifying to what it feels like to live through such times. The book quietly reminds us of something we should probably embroider on a pillow somewhere. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Sounds simple, but in a political world where the other side often becomes less than human in our eyes, it's a reminder that's hard to ignore. Now, Busia doesn't just paint a grim picture. She also shows the weird contradictions of political morality. She's quick to denounce certain coups, the AFRC and PNDC ones especially, calling out how devastating they were for Ghana's development. But here's where it gets interesting. She doesn't apply the same fiery critique to the coup that overthrew Nkrumah, led by Afrifa and the NLC. In fact, Afrifa gets praise in her poems, even being called Okatakia, or war hero. Why? Well, here's where personal history comes into play. Nkrumah exiled her father, and Afrifa's coup ultimately paved the way for her father to become prime minister. So, you could say, it's not exactly a neutral vantage point. That's the thing with personal narratives. They don't always sit neatly with absolute moral principles. If politics is a game of chess, personal experience sometimes decides which pieces you see as knights and which as pawns. That raises the tricky philosophical question. Is a wrong still wrong if it undoes another wrong? We've all heard, two wrongs don't make a right. But what if the second wrong brings a sense of justice or personal closure? Busia's poems don't try to give you a clean answer to that. They just embody the complexity. Still, It's important not to read this as a textbook on Ghana's political history. It's not meant to be that. This is a deeply personal account of living through Ghana's political storms, wrapped in the language of poetry and infused with both nostalgia and grief. The collection I'm talking about is Traces of a Life, a collection of elegies and praise poems by Abena P.A, Busia, published by Abena in 2008. I found this book to be a powerful balance of the personal and political. There's an intimacy to her writing that lets you into her home, her family, her mind, while at the same time giving you enough context to understand the political environment she was living through. One of the strengths of the collection is its accessibility. African poetry can sometimes lean toward the abstract, where the meaning slips through your fingers like water. But Busia's lines flow smoothly. You can follow the emotional current without having to wrestle with the words. Even if you're not Ghanaian, you'll find points of connection. Because loss, exile, celebration, and contradiction are all human experiences. The contradictions in her political stance, while noticeable, actually add to the authenticity. It's easy to demand moral consistency when you're an observer. It's another thing entirely when you're the one whose life was directly shaped by the events. That personal bias doesn't make her work weaker. It makes it more honest. Several themes stood out to me. Loss as a constant. Whether she's talking about exile, political upheaval, or personal bereavement, loss is the undercurrent. Even celebrations are tinged with absence. Politics as a family affair. The poems show how political decisions spill over into the private lives of politicians' families, affecting emotional and psychological well-being. Moral complexity. Her refusal to condemn Afrifa's coup while denouncing others highlights the messy reality of political loyalty and personal history. Exile, not just a physical state, but an emotional one, living away from your homeland, cut off from familiar spaces, shapes every aspect of life. And the human side of power. Politicians and their families are human. They bleed, they grieve, they celebrate, they remember. Abena P.A Busia is a Ghanaian poet, writer, academic, and diplomat. Beyond her literary work, she has been Ghana's ambassador to Brazil, and she's deeply involved in African literature and feminist scholarship. Being the daughter of K.A. Busia, Prime Minister of Ghana from 1969 to 1972, meant she grew up at the intersection of politics, literature, and public life. This dual lens allows her to write with both emotional depth and historical awareness. Traces of a Life isn't just a book of poetry. It's a window into the costs and contradictions of political life, told by someone who lived through it with eyes wide open. It's personal, it's political, and it's beautifully written. If you've ever wondered how history feels from the inside, this is the book to pick up. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.